Hello everyone, and today we're going to talk about Final Fantasy XIV and how it has become the #1 MMO in the world. World of Warcraft is sort of, well, Activision Blizzard has sort of imploded internally. We won't talk about the issues with what's going on with them and the lawsuit, everything. I think that's been covered to death now. But we will take a look at Final Fantasy XIV, and again, I've been playing it. I played it. I bought it in the Steam sale. I bought the complete edition, and I played it for the last month. Now went back to it, lost my old account because I had the what is it the one time password thing, and I don't have that phone anymore. I could go and recover it, but then I couldn't be bothered really doing that. So I just started from scratch again, played as an Arcanist, which I think was the right class choice in the end. I played up to level 50, which is kind of the end of the A Realm Reborn portion of the game. There is the other expansions to go through, and I do have all the expansions up until I've got Shadowbringers. The latest one is Endwalker, that's coming out in November. So level 80 is the current cap. So we'll play up to end game, and I'll definitely be continuing with it. But I thought I would just give my thoughts. And you can clearly see why it's the #1 MMO in the world right now. I mean, if you look at my video on SWOTOR in 2021, where I complained a lot about the difficulty in SWOTOR, or should we say the lack of difficulty in SWOTOR, where the combat was really boring because the enemies don't really do anything. Now, Final Fantasy XIV, even from early levels, like even level 4, level 5 quests, the enemies have mechanics. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV isn't difficult, but you do have to pay attention to the enemies. I mean, most of it is just a circle on the ground and you have to move out of it. But that's it. But at least it's a mechanic that's there. At least it teaches you how to play the game a bit better. You know, it teaches you you're going to have to move out of that circle and continue casting your abilities. So I mean, I like the way it does that. I mean, the mechanics are fairly simplistic. Like most enemies only have one mechanic, but at least it's teaching you how to play. And then you have stuff like the Hall of the Novice, which is a fantastic addition. It basically teaches you how to play your role. So I did it. I was an Arcanist at the beginning. You're a DPS class, so you queue for that. It's available from around level 15, which is coincidentally when Sastasha, which is the first dungeon in the game, is available. And what this does is it just sets out a series of challenges that you play with NPCs. NPCs take on the role of the tank and the healer, and you just get little scenarios that you get to play through to test your ability as a DPS. One of them is just dodging circles on the ground, ironically. You know, some of them are target priorities, like they'll say that whenever a new target spawns in, they'll generally attack the healer, and it is recommended that you attack the enemy that's attacking the healer. I like that as someone who plays a healer. Later on, I changed to the Scholar job after playing the Arcanist for the instant Q pops, really. As a healer, healers are in high demand in Final Fantasy XIV. That's one of the things you realise when you start playing it. If you play a healer, your Q pops instantly. So whenever I got a dungeon quest, I would just play a healer or fight one of the primals. I would just change to the Scholar, because the Arcanist, you can become a summoner, which is just another DPS spec. Again, it's a pet-based class, as you would expect. Or you can play as the Scholar. And the Scholar is a healer with a pet. You get a little fairy that goes around and does some of the healing for you. So yeah, that's quite an interesting way to play there. So you've got the choice between a healer or a DPS. You can change pretty easily. All you do is change the class crystal over. So you've got a summoner crystal and a scholar crystal, and you just swap them over. They do level at the same rate, which is nice. And I like the change as well that you don't have to go and level 2 classes to get one job, because last time I played as a black mage, and I had to level a Thaumaturge to level 30 and then level an Archer to level 15. to combine those into the Thaumaturge class, or sorry, the Black Mage class. But this time you don't. It's just part of the quest. So that's a good quality of life update. And I like the fact that the Scholar and the Summoner also level at the same rate. So if you earn XP as a Summoner, it follows on to the Scholar. That way, when you get the dungeon quest and you're level 45, it's a level 45 dungeon, you switch from the Summoner to the Scholar, you're still going to be level 45, which is good. I mean, some of the stats need to change around, but at least you're the same level there. So that's a good thing there. And again, I love the way the game runs well as well. I mean, bear in mind that this is, I mean, it is essentially, some of the textures are fairly ugly in the game and fairly flat looking. This is a consequence of it being a PS3 game initially. When A Realm Reborn relaunched, when it relaunched, the 2.0 version of Final Fantasy XIV, it launched on PlayStation 3 as well. So consider that's, 2 generations old, this console. It is available, that it was ported to PS4 and now is available on PS5. Haven't tried the console versions because I don't own them. But generally, the PC version runs pretty well. In Limsa Lominsa, that's probably the worst case scenario, where everybody's just around and dancing. And they did make a change to the game so that people would be logged out automatically. Because that's another thing about the game. Every time you log in, you have to wait in a queue to log in. And the queue time isn't very long, but you can see how popular it is. I mean, they even had to stop selling it in North America because their server capacities were overloaded. That's just how popular Final Fantasy XIV has become these days. But yeah, I really love it. I like the dungeons as well. I think the dungeons are interesting. The only point of criticism that I would have about doing the dungeons is for example, I became a scholar. I became a summoner as well at level 30, but scholar at level 30. So going back and doing the level 15 dungeons, you get the level sync in place. And when the level sync is in place, you only get the abilities that you would have had at that level. So when you become a summoner, you get all of your other heals, apart from Psysic is the only heal you've got. All the other heals you're given at level 30. Luckily, your fairy can do most of the healing. You're basically just a third DPS at that point. Let your fairy do the healing in the low-level dungeons, but it's not the best for learning how to be a healer because you've just lost most of your healing abilities. You can only use one healing ability there. So that is a bit of a criticism there, because you have to go do level 30 dungeons and find appropriate level content. Because if you're doing the level synced content, I mean, it is always beneficial to queue for a random dungeon as a healer because they're always the roll and demand. And you get the bonus XP, you get the bonus gil, and you get the bonus Grand Company seals as well. So that's something you can really take advantage of as a healing class. And the class itself plays pretty well. I like the way it works there. You've got your fairy doing some of the healing. You've got some decent options when it comes to healing. It is annoying not to have any AoE healing, though, in a low-level dungeon. You're sitting there going, come on, give me that ability. The ability's there on your bar. You can hit it, but it won't do anything. It's always grayed out because you're not the high enough level to get it. But other than that, it's pretty decent. The main scenario quest I like. I mean, it's pretty interesting as well. Haven't finished the main scenario yet. We're going to fight the big Metal Gear Ultima weapon. We're going to have to fight. I think that's where I'm up to with that. But I think that's the end of it. And then you move on to the expansion content. So hopefully we can get that done. Level 51 at the moment, but can't get any abilities because I haven't finished the main scenario and can't do the class quest. That's another thing, is the main scenario quest is kind of out of sync at the moment with the class quest, because the class quest will get some of them. To get certain abilities, you have to reach the level required to get that ability and then complete your class quest. Like, you have to complete the summoner quest, or if you're a scholar, complete the scholar quest. That is another thing that you have to do, but it used to be quite in step the previous, but because the main scenario quest just seems to give you so much XP these days, you end up doing the main scenario quest. My advice is, if you're playing it, do the main scenario quest, do your class quest as well. Any quest that has a blue a kind of navy blue sort of interior to it instead of the usual gold. Usually means it's a quest that will give you something or will teach you something about the game, or you'll unlock something about the game. But following the main scenario quest will always get you a mount. You'll also get things there. But again, the class quests are always blue quests as well. I would always recommend doing them when you're at the level to do them. Some require, like the summoner one, you have to have fought the primals. Like I couldn't do one of them because I hadn't killed Titan yet, or hadn't fought the Titan primal yet. So I couldn't get an ability unlocked. It was just another summon, basically, this little mini Titan. You get a little mini Ifrit, a little mini. You get mini versions of the primals that are in the game as a summoner. You don't get to summon the full ones though, like in the single player Final Fantasy games, where remember you could summon Ifrit and it would do a massive attack. You don't get to do that in this. It's not quite the same. It's more of a dot spec, really, the summoner. It's a bit like a warlock, if you want a comparison. You've got a pet, and you do damage over time, mostly, so it is mostly a bit like that, really. Your pets can do different things. You can control your pets. It's a bit like that, Titan's more of a tanky pet. You've got a kind of... Titan's like a support, tankish type pet. You've got Ifrit, which mostly does like fire damage, and AoE damage is quite nice there. Tend to stick with Ifrit, the little mini Ifrit. You can even summon Bahamut later on in the game. So looking forward to getting that as well. Just been looking at the abilities going forward with that. But yeah, I think that I really like the way it runs as well. Like, it runs so well. 3080 Ti most of the time. I've got it capped at 144 FPS. But at 1440p and ultra settings, yeah, it runs really well. Like we said earlier, some of the textures are a bit weird. The parallax occlusion mapping that they've applied to some of the textures just makes some of the things look weird from certain angles. It gives them extra 3D triangles to make them look 3D, basically. Well, extra triangles to make them look 3D. Some surfaces just look so weird with it. That's one of the weird things. You can turn it off if you don't like it, though, and it will increase performance. Worst case scenario, you do get Limsa Laminsa again, is the worst case. Some fates will drop the frame rate. Generally, they don't drop much in dungeons. I've done a few dungeons with the frame rate now, and they generally run very well. But overall, I really enjoy this. This is the kind of MMO. I really liked it before. I played it when I played the original in 2010. And I played it when A Realm Reborn launched and kind of just lost track with it for a few years. But it's good to be back and good playing it. And you can see why a lot of people are flocking to Final Fantasy XIV. And it has overtaken World of Warcraft as the #1 sort of MMO. It's still a subscription-based game, though. There is a few free trial options that you can do. They do have free login campaigns occasionally if you want to check it out, but it's definitely worth checking out. I like the way the classes work. Again, you can change class at will, which is quite nice. You do have to start from level 1 again with most of the classes and level them up. And again, you get the job system, which has been streamlined and refined. And I like the way that has been done, because again, I remember going to level 2 classes and it always was annoying. You've still got things like the levies, they're still there. I like the levy system, it was quite good, especially if you're leveling another class there and you don't have the main scenario quest to do. You can do the levies. Levies are kind of like dailies, if you don't know what they are. You get like the battle quest ones, you get field ones, you get what's the ones, the the crafting ones, you get them again. It's pretty robust, the game experience there. I like the way you're treated as a healer, though. Healers are treated like gold dust. You never get the blame as well for that, because you're just in demand. Normally it's tanks, but yeah, Final Fantasy XIV seems to be okay for tanks, apparently. Healer, again, every time you just click the dungeon queue and the duty finder, you get an instant pop. Which again is helpful. Good for leveling as well, if you want to level. I really like the dungeons. I love the little intro to every dungeon. I think I like that. There's a little bit of an intro where the camera pans around the dungeon. Pretty nice. I like that. I like the presentation. It is excellent, really. I like the visual style of Final Fantasy XIV. It's very Final Fantasy. The music as well is excellent. Your mount has a theme song. Your chocobo mount has got a theme song, and you can name your mount. That's awesome. I called mine Fred. You can also have your chocobo come and fight for you as well. Again, you can feed it and you can let it fight for you. It will level up, and it does act like your companion in Star Wars The Old Republic, in that you can set its role. However, unlike SWTOR, it does have its own skill tree that you have to manage, and it does level up independently of your character. So it doesn't level up with you. You have to level it up as well, but it's just a case of feeding it and summoning it. I can't remember the item that you pick up is. I can never remember what it's called. It's like something, some greens or something like that you pick up, and it summons your chocobo to fight alongside you. Again, you can set them to tank, heal, or DPS, which is nice as a summoner. Then you've got 2 pets. Then excellent. You've got your Ifrit, and I have it tank. I like Fred. Fred's a tank. Fred the Chocobo tank. Don't mess with the Chocobo. You can also customize your mounts as well in the game. Haven't had any other mounts yet, but I guess we'll look into that when we get to that. But I'm looking forward to playing through the expansions there. You've got Heaven's Ward. There's what's the other one called? Shadowbringers. I can't remember what the other one's called. I think there's another one in there between Heaven's Ward and Shadowbringers. The latest expansion is Endwalker, which looks interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I need to get to level 80 to access that, but it's not out to November, so at current rate will progress well. I'm going to pre-order it because you get a ring that gives you 30% XP boost. So I did it without the XP boost just to gain an experience of the game, kind of as it is, really. I wanted to gain some experience of leveling it without going too far. I'm already way exceeding the main scenario quest now, because the main scenario quest is like level 48 and I'm level 51 at the moment. But anyway, I've ranted on long enough about Final Fantasy XIV. In case you haven't, I do love the game, and I would definitely recommend that you give it a go. Certainly give it a go during one of the trial periods. Again, I picked the complete edition up, which had all the expansions, for $15.99 on the Steam sale. I think it's on sale right now on the PlayStation Store as part of the PlayStation Summer Sale. So it's definitely worth checking out. I haven't played it with a controller for a while. I never liked playing as a healer with a controller. I should point that out. But you do have the option on PC if you want to play with a controller, although why you would want to play it with a controller. Mouse and keyboard is just way better. I don't get how you have to cycle. I hate how you have to cycle through targets. Like you can do it with the tab key on the keyboard, but you can always go and hover mouse over the target you want and click it. I like that on the keyboard and mouse controls. But anyway, that is all for this video. We've ranted on long enough about Final Fantasy XIV. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.